I'm good.
Well, the president got COVID, you got COVID. I had, he's taking Paxlovid. Did you take Paxlovid?
No.
Maybe like a crystal.
Oh. Put your hand up. Hi, Kat.
I thought no, I had that. I didn't have a crystal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking, what kind of
Bothered.
crystal is that? Will calm you down?
George is,
Good morning, everyone.
aboard.
Morning, Kat.
Carrie Ann Sharota. You're not online?
No, she can't make today's meeting.
Shame on her. I was
She's
gonna pick
traveling.
on-
She's
I told her I was
traveling
gonna
right
pick on her.
So are we,
Baby.
still muted? Or are we on?
No,
Oh,
we're-
okay. Hi, Kat.
Merce, 3 months.
2.5.
Can you unmute us?
Still small, but close.
Merce, can you hear me?
I can hear you at Mike Town very well.
Really, I can't hear you. I hear a pathetic echo.
An echo from,
Because I couldn't find Carrie Ann.
it's not coming across okay?
You're
Yeah, we
okay,
can hear.
Bob. Yeah, we're just putting up the speaker on our
You're
end.
more handsome than you are loud.
It was,
So,
that's not saying much. Good to see all you folks.
Hey, Bob.
Hi,
you should-
Bob. Hi, Cass.
Okay, people are identified on the screen we have in front of us, and somebody's identified as Kimmy's note taker. So when do you want to get started?
We're ready.
Is
Yeah.
it 9? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's currently 9:04 and I'm calling this meeting to order. Unfortunately, Mark Patterson is not with us today. He was feeling ill today. So it is Thursday, July 18th, 2024 at 9:04. Roll call. So Mike Town,
Here.
Mark Browning,
Here.
Judge Ibarra,
Ronnie
Ronnie
Barra.
Barra,
Here.
Martha here, and Kara is here, and George is with us also. So first, we want approval of the June 20th meeting. Remember, all this is online. Oh, we don't have a copy here.
You need a
of What's
motion?
online?
Adam,
I don't know.
here.
Yeah, motion,
So moved.
second.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mike Town and seconded by Ronnie Barra. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? Okay, minutes have passed. First of all, we like to accept public testimony on our agenda items. Again, we ask that you keep your testimony to the agenda items. At the end of our meeting, you'll be allowed to ask more general questions. So any questions now? Okay, Ronald?
I want to talk about the agenda. I looked at the last meeting and then realized that there was nobody from the public attending the meeting. And then I couldn't see who was on Zoom, but I only saw Bob Merck. And I know it's July is a summer meeting, but the question is, what is the importance of the public in the Oversight Commission and attending this, and how do you respond to the public? Ohana Hopakale has been a big fan of Oversight Commission, and but two things. One, we asked specifically in the meeting last in Hilo, what is the percentage of people of 65 years and over in the system, and we hope to get an answer from that. Secondly, we saw that there was no video of the meeting in Hilo, and we made an effort to get people out to testify, and it's disappointing not to have the video so that we can use it and encourage other people to get involved and express their views too. So Ohana Hopakale was started by on the premise that there was a disproportionate number of Kanaka Maoli in prison. And we think that's the forest of dealing with that. And if you address that, you're going to deal with the overpopulation in prison. And so we think that, you seem to be so focused on the trees that you don't see the forest, right? I think we need to get people to respond and talk about why is there a disproportionate number of Kanaka Maoli in prison. And I think the people who are families of Paha will come and respond to that because they have ideas about it. And so we really hope that that you're moving towards rehabilitation and restoration as it's in your documents and in the name of the new department, and that we emphasize more on that because that's going to deal with the overpopulation specifically. Now, we've raised things like 65 years and over. I mentioned a Columbia University study, but even the federal government studies show that the percentage of people who are coming back to prison after 65 and over is maybe 3%. Yeah, at the most. So that, we need to deal with these things. And to hear last month that a 73-year-old woman died in prison, and we don't hear the follow-up on what the circumstances were compared to that. I think those things are unforgivable. I think we need to deal with those issues if we really want to talk about bringing down the population. And I hope the Oversight Commission will welcome the public support in working together with you in trying to do that. Thank you.
Ronald, thank you for your comments, and I think they are very important comments that you've given. I'm going to ask Kara in the future to please look up that age thing about those who are, what percent are over 65. And also, Ronald, you brought up that in one of the studies you read that 3% of the people coming to prison are over 65 at the time they are admitted. Is that correct? Your mic is
even federal reports are showing that the recidivism of people over 65 is so small, it's like 3%.
Oh, okay.
People, yeah. So we should even lifers without parole. I think we need to consider, how to get them out. We're in Hawaii, the home of old Ponopono. Hawaii was once a Christian nation. We got to talk about forgiveness and how to get people out so that they don't die in prison. It's just costly, and just to have them die without family around them is something that we need to take very seriously. Thank you.
Martha.
Mike Town.
Ronald, it's good to see you. Where are you in Hilo?
Right.
Okay, I want to put at the end of the agenda expungement, because it's a very slow, should be a fair, prompt process. So I just want you to remind me if I forget, because I'm one of those older people. Thank you.
And Ron, I do want to let you know that the staff does meet individually with a lot of the community groups. I could not tell you how often that takes place because I would need Kristen and Kara to help with that, but we are out in the community that way. I know that Ron is part of a group with Kara on the reentry programs. Is that what it is? Diversion programs. So they're like doing a subcommittee with that. But I hear you very well. It's wondering what we as a commission are going to accomplish, and we still have a long way to go. And I don't have answers for you today, but amongst ourselves, we need to discuss this, and by our next meeting, have some response to you as to what our plans of we as a commission moving forward are. So thank you very much for your comments. Is there anybody else that wants to speak to the agenda items today? Again, you'll have the opportunity at the end of the meeting to also bring up any questions or comments you want to make. Thank you. So first, we're asking for the director's update, and Mr. Johnson is not able to join us today, but Deputy Director Sana is here. She was just here. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Good morning, everybody, and aloha. For those of you I've not yet met, I'm Sana Munoz. I'm the current Deputy Director for Rehabilitation Services and Programs with the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Director Johnson apologizes for not being present today. He's in interviews all day. However, he wanted to ensure that a report from DCR was provided for today's meeting. Ergo, I am here. Unfortunately, I have previously scheduled meetings, so I just have enough time to provide this report to you all. So thank you very much. I just wanted to let you know that July 8th to July 12th, Director, myself, the Deputy Director for Correctional Institutions, our OCCC Warden, and a DAGS representative, our Capital Improvement Project Chief Planner, and CIP staff, along with Senator Glenn Okai, went to Indiana. We also invited Senator Elefante, House Representative Hashem, and Chan. However, they were unable to join us. The purpose of the trip was we toured private built facilities as well as facilities built and managed by the Department of Corrections of Indiana, both prefab as well as conventional construction facilities. We visited a 4,200 bed facility being built in Westville, toured a factory to learn more about steel cell construction and amenities for facilities. We learned how they are building their mental health units in their newer facilities to address the needs of that population of offenders. We also toured the Public Safety Academy and a Hendricks County Jail, looking at the modular steel cell construction. We also toured a reentry center in Indiana and looked at what they were doing in terms of, transitioning their inmate residents out into the community and the efforts that they have started in their jurisdiction. There are currently no plans to change, no changes to the OCCC plan. Also, the department went to Washington, D.C. for the Competency to Stand Trial Policy Academy, June 25th to June 26th. That was myself, director, our Intake Services Center Division Administrator, the Governor's Senior Advisor on Mental Health, Judiciary, Department of Health, and the Attorney General's Office. And we attended that policy academy to learn more about increasing our jail diversion efforts, as well as looking at how other jurisdictions have implemented deflection efforts. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that with the assistance of Senator Schatz's office, they assisted our department in getting a $2 million earmark for telemedicine project to increase our behavioral health efforts in our facilities. And I did want to let you guys know what our ask to the legislature will be in the upcoming session. We're going to be asking for 20 additional facility case managers, hopefully to help lower the current caseload of our staff so that they can do real integrated case management services. We're asking for $4 million annually to provide reach and wraparound reentry services to offenders, including hopefully staffing up with navigators to assist with the connection to community-based services, including social services, benefits, housing, etc. We're asking for $200,000 annually for bus passes, replacement birth certificates, real estate ID cards, and replacement social security cards prior to the offender's release from prison to increase those efforts. And also $2 million annually to provide initial tool belts, minimal tools, safety boots, safety equipment, etc., and living wages to offenders participating in apprenticeship programs with various trade craft unions. And that note, the final report is that on June 19th, our Correctional Program Services Division staff, our reentry coordination staff, and our Hawaii Correctional Industry staff met with the Apprenticeship and Training Coordinators Association of Hawaii at Honolulu Community College, where they had about 17 building trade unions, including HICO, Honolulu County, Harriet, which is the Hotel Workers Training Union. And this is all efforts to work on increasing our collaboration with these apprenticeship programs. Thank you.
Sana, I do have some questions. First of all, requesting funds for additional positions is welcome, but I know every state department is having trouble hiring, as is the Department of Public Safety. So getting the money is not the winning the game, it's getting the employees to come on board. So have you folks been working with like the School of Social Work or anybody at the university to try and increase interest in working in corrections?
So I will have to get back. I will have to get back to you on our specifics on who we're working with right now, Martha. But we are. I'm sure you guys have seen the articles on the increase in our recruitment efforts. So we're putting out the news broadcast, the radio broadcast, putting it, we're just getting more ads out there and trying to generate more interest out there.
Yeah. But I do congratulate you, the department, for putting out those advertisements and being aggressive in their recruitment. But those are primarily directed towards ACOs. So as professional staff, we also need, even kitchen staff. I mean, when we were at the women's facility, when we did our last tour, there was only one cook on duty that was doing everything. And there's no way that one person could keep up with everything. Go ahead.
And just to, and I understand what you're saying. Just to let you know, our recruitment efforts are increasing in looking at all of our staff openings. I think sometimes people are more familiar with the ACO need, and a lot of our advertisement that does showcase our ACOs. Sometimes our other staff gets lost in it, but we are going to increase efforts across the board for all of our positions, and that should include both ACO and our nursing staff, our other mental health staff, our program staff, our kitchen staff, etc. So you should be seeing more of those advertisements that include across the board, all of the staff that we have in the department.
Okay, and Sana, in the future, we need to be meeting with you and the department more, because as you maybe realize, our mandate requires us to assist the department in developing the rehabilitation programs. So we want to, make that an official relationship. Okay?
Understood. I look forward to it.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Sana?
Well, Sana, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My question is going to be just a general one to agendize later about expungement, the speed or lack of speed for the parole authority and the governor to handle expungement. Because people that do well should get out when they deserve to get out, not much later. So that's downstream, if that's okay for me to mention that to Tommy.
Yeah.
Okay, and as I know, indicated earlier, I do have to leave. My secretary to just give me the heads up that my next meeting is waiting. So if you can, I will let director know, and we'll follow up and provide you with those responses.
Yeah. And I would just like to add one thing. Sana and we do have a good working relationship. So we're in communication often, and I just want the community and the commission to be aware that we are emailing all the time.
Yeah, thank you, Cara. It's been awesome. We do have quite a bit of communication. But Martha, I agree. I don't have a problem with, increasing that across the board and having more communication with everybody else also.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Oh, there's another question
Okay.
here. One more question.
Sana, hi, Ronnie Barra. Glad to
Hi,
see you.
Judge.
Hi. The request for the monies that you're making for example, processing of more identification cards, wraparound services, how many inmates are you expected to serve based on these requested budget amounts?
The hope with the additional budget request would be that we'd be able to serve all of the inmates who would like, because as you know, I mean, we can't force people to get their social security card or the IDs. It's still elective. But the hope would be that with the additional funding, we'd be able to service all of them without any cost to the inmates. Is the hope.
I guess my bottom line question is, I take it you're asking the ledge to appropriate these funds so you can, as you said, serve all of the requests. So then right now, there must be a shortage of people being served. And
Right now, the inmates are still required to pay for the IDs themselves, right? Unless they're determined to be indigent.
And how many can you give me an approximate number of paying on their own? Or not?
I'm sorry, Judge, I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay, because as you know, like Martha says, you get the money appropriated, then you have to hire these people for the positions. And in the meantime, what happens to these folks that can't pay for their IDs and they get back into the community? So, but thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Aloha.
Aloha.
The next item on the agenda is just a quick review of our budget. As many of you are aware, the commission for the first time is included in the state budget. The previous years, we were funded through separate bills that would fund us, but it didn't give us any permanence. So at least now we're line items in the budget. Let's hope we can maintain it. The budget that was approved is what went to the legislature. I will say, though, what we submitted to the Attorney General's office was higher than this. And the Attorney General's office and Budget and Finance cut it down. So at least we did get what did go to the legislature with no cuts. This includes one new oversight position, which is it funded for the whole year or half year?
Full year.
Whole year. Okay, so is it in recruitment right now?
We're waiting till Kristen gets back to.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's it on the budget. Oh, also the budget, when it comes to mainland travel, they kind of limited, they cut it, or the AGs and BNF cut it in half. And I think it's very important that our staff and commissioners have the opportunity to do exactly what Sana was just talking about, to visit other jurisdictions and to attend conferences and stuff. So we may have to look for some alternative funding to do some of that work. Okay, next item on the agenda is the overview of the Maui Community Correctional Center tour, which took place on Thursday, June 20th. And you're going to get tired of hearing my voice. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, the highlights of the tour. The report is on the internet, and we will be going over the report itself. But the highlights are that the population has decreased significantly, 28% since we did our tour last year. So last year, there were 299 inmates on the site. There are now 215 on the site, the date that we visited. Yet the female share of the population went up. In 2023, it was 15%, and now it is 20% of the population. So we did not see a reduction in the women being placed there. I think there were 45 last year, and there are 43 now. The pretrial share of the population, though, did go down, where in 2023, it was 55% of the population, and this year it was 44% of the population. So that it's good to see that there was a significant reduction in the number of people there and in the percent that were pretrial population. As a result of the reduction in population, the facility brought dorms 4 and 5 offline. 4 and 5 had a capacity of 32 beds. And this allowed them to then reassign staff that were assigned to dorms 4 and 5 to other areas. We've mentioned briefly about how difficult it is to fill positions. So this was a big help to the facility in being able to redeploy their staff. There continue to be a high number of vacancies across the board. And, you know, as was brought up just before, the department has launched a very aggressive campaign to fill the ACO positions, and hopefully it'll be expanded to other positions. Things that we were concerned about is inmates spend the majority of their day confined in their dorms or their cells. When we did our population capacities in 2000 and 2001, it was based on the assumption that inmates would be in cells only 10 hours to 11 hours out of the day. In fact, it appears that they are spending only about 5 hours a day out of the cell, and that would be to take their showers and do their recreation, and the rest of the time is in their cells. That's way too much time to be in cells. In the dormitories, again, they do not get outside very much. We heard that again and again. The inmates, when they're sent outside, all of them are concrete rec yards. There is no place, and as we walked around the facility, I didn't see a place for them to be doing an exercise in a grassy area or where there are trees. So they're only working in concrete, which was disturbing. Let's see. Only 5 inmates were participating in the work furlough program, and 2 inmates were on extended furlough. Considering we have over 1,800 sentenced felons in our system, we would expect many more people to be participating in work furlough. So this is an area, Ronald, that the commission really has to focus on is making people are moving through the system in a way that they get to furlough before they are released from the facility. I don't think that's happening right now. Mail was also a major problem, a very big problem. Mail is not coming into the inmate population on a regular basis. So they say days will go by where they get no mail at all. They know from their family that mail has been sent to them, but they have not received it yet. But also official mail is not getting to them. And we had one example of an inmate who got a letter from the U.S. District Court in Honolulu. And wait a minute, let me get to that part of the report because I'd say when the letter was sent. You know what page it's on? Anyway, the letter was sent like in early May, like May 11th. It was mailed on May 13th, and he didn't get the letter until June 18th. The letter required him to respond to the court on June 17th, which was the day before he received the letter. Yeah, the letter was dated from the U.S. District Court as May 10th. It was mailed from the court, franked on May 13th, and received by the person in custody on June 18th, 36 days later. So this is something that we've already talked to the department about and will continue to talk to them about. You cannot have official mail delayed like that. But inmates look very much forward to getting their mail from their family and getting they also said the letters being sent out are delayed. So may be held on. They told their family they sent something and they may not get it for a week or two after they put it in the facility mail. So that was disturbing. And also there continues to be no contact visits. This is something that the commission objects to. We're hoping that is going to change in the future, but another area that we will continue to focus on is trying to negotiate with the department to have contact visits again. Okay, the report itself. I'm sorry to bore you with all of this, and you have to listen to me so much. Let's see, they do have a COVID unit, but they don't need to use it right now. So all those temporary cells were vacant, which was nice to see because you've heard us complain about those cells in the past, that they're have very little natural light and stuff like that inside of them. Module, oh, this is HCCC. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at OCCC from last time. I'm sorry. I got them mixed up. So when we were there last time in dorm 6 and 7, the bathrooms were in terrible condition. Many of the facilities were not working, like sinks, showers, and toilets. And they told us that they had a construction project underway. The bathroom has been totally redone and it is in very, very good shape. And it was very clean. So we were happy to see that had been completed. The people that are in modules 6 and 7, one side is for the work line. There were about 20 inmates on that side, and the other dorm was for the 5 people that were on work furlough. So an underutilization of that space. Each side has a capacity of 50 inmates, and that's the rated capacity. Dorms 1 and 2, they house 13 men each, totaling 26 men. And again, the bathrooms areas were clean and functional. And there were large fans in the area. This is our wooden buildings, originally temporary buildings, but they're not temporary anymore. And so these very large fans, which caused a lot of noise, were in the area. And they were, at least they were kept cool. And again, the common complaint of lack of outdoor rec was heard again and again and again. Or I didn't stress that those who did get outdoor rec, they said it was only happening twice a week for an hour. So they had very little time outside in the sun. Dorm 3 houses women. Dorm 3 is the oldest building on the property. It was part of the old Maui jail, and it is a cinder block building. It appeared to be in good condition, but again, it is crowded. And the women are kept in there in the dormitory most of the day. Very few of them have access to programs. They complained about that. They currently said they get NA and AA, parenting, and church. And they're asking for more education programs, and they're especially interested in the culinary arts. because the Women's Community Correctional Center, they do have a culinary arts program, and some had participated with that in the past. The women also asked for better hygiene products, and this has come up again and again. The inmates have complained about the toothbrushes being very weak and not good, and they wear out very fast. The department's response in the past has been that to give them heavier duty toothbrush, they can be turned into weapons. We need to come with a happy medium because this stuff is not good. They're also given like very small bars of soap, not a decent bar of soap. So the toothpaste is limited. They're not happy about the hygiene products. There was a 32-bed extension being built, or it's scheduled to be built for the women, but they ran into a construction problem. When they started building for the foundation, they ran into underground ducts that they don't even know where the ducts go to. They're old. And so they have to figure that out before they can begin construction again. Modules A and B are cells. And there were 51 men in custody in Module A and 54 assigned to Module B. One of the modules did have construction work going on, and 5 of the cells were closed down, so they'd reduced the population in that module to either 39 or 40. What was good to see is the workers were in doing the construction, the reconstruction work. It was plumbing and air conditioning, and the inmates were still allowed out in the day room, where in the past it has been the practice of the department to keep you in your cells during construction. That means they would never get outside. So I do applaud NCCC for making sure they are still allowed to go into the day room, even though it's for an abbreviated period of time. You know, again, in Module B, the air conditioning was broken during our tour, but those are the things they were working at. Mail delivery was another complaint, and outside rec. Another inmate complained that he had a shattered wrist, and it was in a half cast and wrapped. And he was told that he had to rewrap it every day himself. I was in a half cast and a wrap. I could not rewrap it myself. I had to have friends and coworkers do it for me. We talked to the medical staff about this, and they said they just don't have the time every day to go to his module to rewrap the cast. The inmate is concerned that his wrist is not going to repair correctly. Module C and D, let's see.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay,
You
yeah.
can do that one.
So Module C is ADSEG, administrative segregation, and Module D is disciplinary segregation. We didn't tour ADSEG because there was a COVID case in there. But in Module D, we heard several complaints from people in custody. First was that the mail was taking too long. So this was heard in general population and also in disciplinary seg. Second was that the library requests were too long. And this was particularly important to this population because they spend so much time in their cells. So they really wanted more access to books and just something to do during the day. And then third, there was a period of time that people in custody there indicated that they didn't have access to legal calls. And finally, and this is something that the commission highlighted in a previous report from last year on this facility, the drop boxes and forms for grievances and medical are located outside the unit. So what that process looks like for someone in custody is they have to ask for a grievance form or a medical form from a staff member, fill it out, then give it back to the staff member, and the staff member would place it in the box. So with grievance and medical, there is a level of confidentiality that's expected, and due to that process, it's not being adhered to in that unit. We did talk to MCCC staff about that, and they followed up and let us know that it was a safety concern, and the commission still feels that people need to have access to grievances and medical forms.
In the past, it was in the policy that they had to have access. So if we can look up that policy, they may be violating their own policy. That you do not have to give these forms to staff. You are supposed to be able to put them in the Dropbox, confidential Dropbox yourself. Okay. Can you do the
Yep.
women also?
So the women in cells are located in Module 3 and also multi-purpose day room is the name of the housing, but it's also cells. The most concerning aspect of the cell space is it's very dark and devoid of natural light. And prolonged time in that type of cell can lead to sensory deprivation. So concerned about people being in that cell for a long period of time, paired with lack of outdoor recreation, lack of programming, lack of out of cell time. So that was a concern noted in those two areas. And the window for staff to observe women in these cells is very small. And that with the darkness, it's hard to observe people in these cells. So really the only way for proper observation, because of the size of the window and the lack of light, is by opening the cell every single time you need to do a check, which is intensive on staff. So those cells in that area are concerning.
And that module 3 is part of the 1978 original CCC that was built on the property. And then again,
So holding intake, same issues as I just noted in module 3 in terms of the cell structure, the lack of light, the lack of visibility and opportunity to observe people in those cells. It's the same type of cell. So just reiterate the concern there.
Okay, programming, education and library. When we arrived, the education programs were over. So the teacher was just showing a movie to the educational work line so they could watch that before they went home to their living units. There is only one classroom though. The last time we were there were a lot of activity going on in the classroom, and basically the inmates were divided into 2 groups. We didn't get to see that this time. But they still are allowed to bring tablets back to their cells if they're working on a project for education, but it's limited as to how many inmates can participate on every given day. So that's a problem. There's not really enough space. The library, there is no librarian. And while we were there, the head librarian for the department was visiting and taking care of library issues. That means an inmate work line is, it's either 1 or 2 inmates work in the library. They are completely responsible for staffing out the library and getting books into the carts, the modules. But when we were talking earlier about segregation, they're not going to let one inmate who's not in that module come in with books for other inmates. So it'd be up to ACOs to bring that in. And that's a problem that we don't have enough people. The librarian position has been in continuous recruitment. They have not been able to fill it. Visitation, again, currently there is no in-person visitation. Visitation, non-contact visits are available on weekends only from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and it is for 1 hour duration. They also can do video visits, but that is at a cost to the inmate family to do the video visitation. The medical unit is in a former living unit that was part of the 1978 facility. So our dental office and our medical exam rooms and our nursing office are all in former cells, but it works for them. It was in good condition. It was very clean while we were there. The kitchen had a lot of work being done while we were there. First of all, the dishwasher was completely out of commission, and 2 inmates were working very hard to clean it because we were there on a Thursday, the following Monday, repair people were coming in to repair it. The refrigerators and freezers were fine. The temperatures were okay. They were not overfilled, and the pantry was fine. There was a lot of airflow going on. Other repairs that were underway while we were there was replacing a steamer, removing a kettle and replacing it with 2 skillets, and replacing one of the ovens. The kitchen was very active while we were there. There were a lot of inmates in there. Remember, they had to hand wash all the previous dishes, and they were preparing for dinner. So they're working very hard. So I'm going to ask Kara now to do the next part, which is about the occupancy rates.
Sure. So as Martha mentioned, we are pleased with the population reduction. And we also wanted to highlight some trends when we actually broke down the population, the capacity, and the occupancy rates of each unit. And I'll just do a brief overview. If you'd like more information, can look in the report. The more restrictive housing units, and that would be units with cells, tend to be at the highest capacity. So dorms and furlough are below capacity, furlough being only at 10%, while the cells are over capacity, and then that is exacerbated for women. So women in their housing units, again, over capacity at rates higher than men. So that's a summary. And I really want to reiterate that all the occupancy rates have significantly decreased since last year. So highlighting that positive aspect, but also looking at the trends in terms of more restrictive housing being more overpopulated.
And can you do the custody rates also?
Sure. The only thing that I really wanted to highlight in terms of the custody status is that there are 89 people who are pre-trial for a felony charge. And when we looked at that number, there were 42 people in that category in the facility for more than 6 months. So the actual custody status breakdowns are included, but I think that's the most important point of that section.
Keep going. I'm tired. of my
Facility
voice.
okay, yeah, I'll just briefly go through these. So we also, the commission wanted to highlight some positive things that we saw at MCCC. First were the occupancy rates, and those have decreased. Martha said it, I've said it, we're pleased. But also this makes MCCC the only jail that is not severely overcrowded. So that is a really great, that's a great update to provide. Also, those dorm 6 and 7 bathroom updates, the commission was really pleased with those, particularly with the status of those restrooms before. And then finally, if you've read many of the commission's reports, we have noted issues with the use of the modular housing or the shipping containers. And we're happy to report that Maui is not using them at all.
Go on.
Keep going. Okay.
You do the rest of the report.
All right.
I'm tired of my own voice.
So I'll just briefly go through the rest. The follow-up on previous recommendations, we did want to highlight several recommendations that we've made in the past that still remain problematic. One of them I already mentioned was in disciplinary SEG and administrative SEG regarding the grievance forms and medical forms. Secondly, an issue with fire safety. So actually, Commissioner Sakai really raised this last year. Dorms 1 and 2 had chains and padlocks on the doors. So if there was a fire, it would be difficult to get out. Those still remain. So we request that the facility prioritize that. And then finally, we've heard some issues about that restrictive housing unit at Maui from people in custody. And one of the things we heard was that people are remaining in disciplinary segregation, which is a punitive setting. It's kind of designed to be that way. It's disciplinary for more than 60 days. So what will happen is people will go into disciplinary segregation for 60 days. They'll be removed for a one or 2 days and then placed back in disciplinary segregation. And we see as a way to get around the policy, where there's a reason why that policy is in place. It's very detrimental to spend that extended period of time in disciplinary segregation. So we ask that the facility look at that practice and reevaluate it if it's determined that it is still happening. And now we have the recommendations. Do you want me to do those, Martha, or would you like to go through
Okay,
those?
I can go through it.
Okay.
So we want to, again, increase the programming opportunities. They seem to be very limited, or if they are expanded, they only have a very small number of inmates that can participate, like in the education program. So we need to expand programming and also community partnerships. I know already for the reentry, they are working with Maui Economic Opportunity. That's an example of an organization that has been very supportive of providing programs to inmates. And I'm hoping that more money will become available to expand programs from organizations such as Maui Economic Opportunity. Update recreation to align with the departmental policy and national standards. as to how often inmates should have access to recreation. When we had the consent decree, it was at least 5 days a week, they had to have outdoor rec, 1 hour of outdoor rec. And we need to, and that's, the other rec was required also, but at least 1 hour of outdoor rec, you need to get out of your living unit at times. Expand the work furlough utilization in MCCC. We had some complaints about the work furlough from some other inmates who had recently been transferred from Halava or even from Arizona. And that was that they had to wait for a long time before they can get a job. They had to do 90 days of in-house programming, then 90 days of visitation work furlough. I'm sorry, no, visitation furlough. And visitation furlough is you get to go outside and meet your family. And sometimes it's for a day and then it increases to a weekend. And then after that 6 months, then they can start looking for a job. Well, the inmates who are coming over often have less than 6 months before their tentative parole date. And so they're being delayed as to when they can be released on parole because they're not getting to participate in the furlough program in a timely manner. So it's another thing that for the reentry, we're going to have to work very closely with the department and make our concerns heard loud and clear. We need to ensure that there's timely mail delivery, and not only mail delivery, but letters that are sent by inmates go out, and especially when it comes to any legal correspondence. We need to have enhanced oversight of the disciplinary segregation, the problem that Kara was just talking about putting people in disciplinary seg. You can only go into disciplinary seg for extended periods after you have been adjudicated for being responsible for the rule violation. But the maximum is 60 days. So this practice of taking people out for a day or two and then putting them back, we've had that come up in the past. We've handled it in the past. And I'm very disappointed to hear that it's happening again, because it should not. It is very unlikely that one day they were out, they committed another violation, had another hearing, and were returned as a result of a new violation. Reinstate contact visits. This is happening in many states in the United States. This is one area that is currently being litigated in a number of states about the lack of contact visits, because the reasons for the lack of contact visits seem to be falling apart. It made sense during COVID, but to continue it now does not make sense. So again, it's another thing I get in touch with Bill Collins about. We also have a system-wide recommendation, and that is at as of May 2024, there were 42 pretrial detainees who had been in custody for more than 6 months. These were all pretrial felons. And the facility itself has no control over how long someone is pretrial, but the criminal justice system does. And so it's things that we need to be working on with a larger group of people to ensure that inmates, in fact, get timely adjudications for their cases. And so we ask that the judiciary, the prosecutor, the public defender, and criminal defense attorneys help us address this. We again want to thank the staff at MCCC. The warden sticked with us the whole time we were there, along with another staff member, another uniformed member. They were very responsive to us. And also, when we were in the women's dorms, one of the women complained that her husband could not deposit money in her account because she had made a mistake with his Social Security number. She was off by 1 number, and she was told she has to wait for 6 months before she can resubmit the request that he be allowed to deposit money into her account. That's ridiculous. She should just be allowed to correct this mistake. So things like that need to be taken care of. Also, those day-to-day things that really impact the population. So commissioners, any comments about the trip to Maui?
I guess I have an obvious question. Maybe I don't know the answer. Maybe I knew the answer but forgot. I think Warden Endo has been in that system a long time and she's good. And I appreciate her. When you go in, is she telling you upfront proactively problems, or is it up to us to like, gotcha?
I think she's been proactive, and
She's
she's been
proactive.
very responsive.
So most of these things that you wrote down are not surprises.
No, they're not surprises.
Okay, so she knows this is coming. I think that's important to maintain collegiality.
One thing that we didn't talk to her about, but we've talked amongst ourselves about, is that when they are out of their cells, there are no recreational games for them to play. In other facilities, they will have chess, they will have parcheesi, cards, lots of things for the inmates to play with. And I don't know whether we heard it on this trip, but on another trip we heard, well, you know, if you give them cards, they're gonna gamble. We can't plan everything we do around what might happen. We gotta be doing what's right, and they have to be given activities while they're out in the rec or in the
Is
day
that
room.
standard statewide? Like today you're going to a triple C. Will the warden come out and say, here's some concerns I have proactively? And we don't have to play gotcha?
I haven't met the new warden at OCCC yet.
We met
so
him online. What is his name?
I haven't met him yet.
Warden Shell,
Yeah.
Shell.
Yeah,
SCH.
he's a go-getter.
Yeah, so I can't make that
And he's,
comment. 'cause I
and he's
don't
a
know.
talker,
We're
so
going
I think it's
today.
gonna be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So, but there just are some old ideas, like not giving them games to play with, that you gotta just take a rock and knock them in the head and go bits and posts, get rid of that idea. Let them have recreational activities. And they are found in the other facilities, so there's no reason that they should have concerns that other facilities don't have. Ron?
And I'm sure we're all pleased the jail population has reduced in the past year. And I just wonder if we have been submitting these reports to the people in the system, the stakeholders that make this happen. It's not only the judges, but it's the police chief, the police department, the judges, public defenders, prosecutors, and the criminal defense bar all together forming this criminal justice system. It takes whatever village or whatever, it takes a system to
Yeah.
address the problems in the criminal justice system. It's not only one person or one entity saying, well, oh, I'm only concerned about lockups. What about how you get them from the prison to the community? So it's the whole system from the police beginning to the end. And I was wondering, I know in the past I made a comment that this report should be sent to them, not only to the heads of Department of, what's it, Corrections and
Rehabilitation, yeah.
and Rehabilitations, but the chief of police of that county, the
Mhm.
prosecuting attorney of the county, the public defender of the county, the defense bar of the county, all within the county, and they should be commended as a system,
Right.
as being in the system to achieve this decrease in population. You know, we can go in specifically why it decreased or which entity it is, but to me, on its face, I think it's a cooperative effort.
Mhm.
And so I would suggest that this commission report be submitted to these entities, and the warden ender should be commended. And not only us sending it to the higher ups, like the directors or in the chief justice, I know the governor and the people that appoint us on this commission, but those that are on the ground level too.
Yes.
Right, yeah. Yeah, certainly we've sent it to some of them, but not all of them, and we will. It's a great point. Thank you.
For the appropriate, in the future, the appropriate circuit.
Yeah.
It pertains to Maui, send Maui, Big Island.
Okay.
This is not a confidential report, it's a public report anyway.
Yeah. Any other comments? Okay, the next issue on the agenda is the monthly oversight coordinator report, so I'll ask Kara to present that.
Okay, so George, will you drop the link in the chat? So I'm gonna do an overview of the report, and if you'd like to read it in detail, it's on our website, and George will provide the link in the chat. So sadly, first, I need to report on a death in custody on June 18th, 2024 at Halava Correctional Facility. A person in custody, this was a male, 30 years old, was found unresponsive in his cell at approximately 7:15 p.m. Medical and 911 were called, and the person in custody was transported to the emergency room. At approximately 8:39 p.m., Halava was notified that the individual was pronounced deceased. This appears to be a death by suicide. The Honolulu Police Department, Department of Law Enforcement's Internal Affairs are conducting their respective investigations, as is the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. And in addition to, so some in the Oversight Coordinator report, the MCCC report is outlined. In addition to facility tours, staff have been working on 3 main projects. First is the correctional staff survey and report, and this is a comprehensive survey that we're utilizing to better understand the correctional environment and what staff are experiencing here working in facilities in Hawaii. And also the corresponding report will include recommendations directly from staff on how to better support them. Through this project, we distributed paper surveys at every single facility. We went several days and then followed up with talk stories in which we shared the survey results with staff and also asked staff about their recommendations, what their biggest needs were. And all of that information is coming together in a report. We're in the final stages of drafting it right now, so I'm very hopeful that that will be out soon. And I just want to thank the Department of Corrections for their support, UPW, HGEA, the wardens, different leadership at the facility, and all the staff for participating in this. I see all the results. So, and in writing the report, I see that we have a lot to care for here in Hawaii, a lot of concerns, and also really great people too. So that'll all be highlighted, and we are in the final stages of that draft now. After that's
I just want to say, I did ask that we delay issuing that or reporting on the content of that report until both Kristen and Mark are here, because they're the two that did the debriefing with all the staff, and we really want to hear the stories that they
Sure.
got.
Yeah. So the second body of work that the office is working on is a reentry report. That's the staffing report has been our priority just because that's something we undertook first. But the reentry report is specifically related to our mandate to monitor and review the comprehensive offender reentry program and ensure a timely release of people in custody at their minimums. Earlier this year, we submitted a very large data request to DCR, and we have most of, but not all, responses received. So we have been reviewing those responses, and that report will be next after we finish the staffing report. And then the third piece of work on the staffing side is the House Concurrent Resolution 23 Task Force, and that is its own agenda item. So I'll discuss that then.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next thing on our agenda item is reevaluating the facility-wide capacity of our facilities. Okay, facility capacity analysis. The Corrections Population Management Commission, which was established in 1993, was the first group given the mandate to come up with the rated capacities of the facilities. And at that time, we were to establish maximum inmate population limits, which may be enforced. George, you got something else on the screen?
Hopefully this doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, the previous law read that we were to establish maximum inmate population limits, which may be enforced by the director. The current law has us to establishing the maximum inmate population limits and to come up with policies and recommendations to reduce the population, to keep it, or to keep the population within those limits. In 2001, the Corrections Population Management Commission published its 2001 annual report, and the capacity analysis is included in this. It is available on our website. I was the person that was trained to do the analysis, so I'm the author of this report. There are three major categories that are considered in doing analysis. The reason we're bringing this up today is because new beds are coming online at the Women's Community Correctional Center and at Hawaii Community Correctional Center, which means we have to be incorporating them into the capacity. So I just wanted to explain what it's about. Three major categories are considered in capacity. First is the infrastructure. That's potable water, fire suppression, wastewater management, and power signaling and lighting. Housing, occupancy and space requirements, dormitories, day rooms, toilets, wash basins, showers. These come from American Correctional Association standards. And then support services, which would include food, medical, laundry, programs, recreation. The infrastructure, we would rely for us as a commission to come up with whether the infrastructure can hold can handle the new population. We rely on the permitting agencies. So that would be like the Board of Water Supply for water and sewer, our electric companies at the different islands for the capacity, and the fire department should be doing a review as to whether the fire safety and water pressure is appropriate. Again, for housing, we look at the American Correctional Association standards, which have minimum square footage for dorms, cells, day rooms, rec areas, time spent out of the cell, which we brought up with the Maui, that they're spending way too much time in their cell, and the custody level and classification of the inmates, because that will also determine how much access they have to programs and out of cell time. At the time we did this report, the consent decree was in full force, so we also took guidelines from the consent decree. Programs include food services, so we look to the Food and Drug Administration guidelines and Public Health Services food code. We also look to local Hawaii law and rules and regulations governing managing food. Medical. In the past, all our medical units were accredited by the National Commission on Correctional Healthcare accreditation, so I did not do that work. That was done by other people. Do you know at this time whether we're still accredited in all the medical units?
Oh, medical.
By
I'm
the
not
National
sure.
Association. Okay,
I'm
we
not
need to
sure.
we need to find that out. And then for programs, you're looking at the continuum of services. Hawaii is unique from other states in many ways, and that is our inmates move a lot from the CCCs into the correctional facilities and through the correctional facilities. So we have a continuum of care. So when you start with your substance abuse, you may get AA while you're at Halava, a little bit of substance abuse programming that would be limited. But then if you get to Waiava as a male, you have a much more intense program. And then when you go to the CCCs for furlough, you then have follow-up services for your substance abuse. Same for the sex offenders. In the past, Kulani was our primary facility for sex offender treatment. I'm not sure whether that's still true today, so I want to follow up on that. Also, the capacity of the programs, how many inmates are going to be able to participate? Because for the inmates to be able to step outside the door onto parole or freedom, they need to get through their programming. So if we do not have the capacity and people are cooling their heels for 9 months, 12 months to get in a program that they are required to have before released, we need to overcome those shortfalls. Also, participation rate. We need to look at how many inmates are participating, because we do have often recalcitrant inmates that are refusing to participate in anything, and they are then delaying their own release because of their refusal. But they're a very small number. So eventually we need to reevaluate the whole system. What we are concerned about now is whether we should have a contract worker come in and do it, or whether staff should be trained to do it. When I did this, it took a very good chunk of my time. It took almost a year to do this report. So I'm hoping we can get some outside help to assist us in doing the capacity analysis. And that's all. So as the beds come online, we will report back to you what we have determined to be the capacities of the new spaces. Thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Okay. And updates on House Concurrent Resolution number 23, Kara.
Okay, so to provide some general background, this resolution asked that the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission convene a task force to examine and make recommendations regarding HPA, Hawaii Paroling Authority's procedure for setting the minimum terms of imprisonment.
Right.
So Mark Patterson is the chair. Our chair is also the chair of this task force, and it's been in place for over a year now. Our next meeting is Monday, July 24th, so in just a few days. And in terms of upcoming deadlines, in October, we are required to submit a report of the findings of this task force, including any proposed legislation to the legislature. And additionally, an upcoming deadline, August 1, is to submit any requests for proposed legislation to the Legislative Reference Bureau. So that meeting on Monday, will be live streamed. And then we will be working on any proposed legislation based on the outcome of the meeting, and then a report to the ledge in October.
Okay, thank you. I don't think you're gonna have any draft legislation by August 1st. I think that has
To
passed.
clarify that, the task force is separate from this commission. So whatever the task force recommends is not this commission's recommendations, it's the task force, right?
Correct, yeah. So, Mark is the chair of
Yeah.
the task force,
But-
but yeah, this task force hasn't voted on their stance on the answer to the main question of the task force. So, yeah, correct.
I think it's been frustrating for staff, to put it mildly. Any other comments about the House Concurrent Resolution 23? Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. So please, anybody has a comment? Kat Brady, and remember to turn on your mic.
Aloha, everybody. I know a few meetings ago, we talked about the price gouging at Saguaro. And I continue to receive calls from the guys who tell me that a case of water that used to cost $7 and change is now $15. So it doesn't seem like that much has happened. So I think we need to look into this. It is really, really, really hot in Arizona, and the guys need water. So I just want to alert the commissions that we need to poke the bear and say, what's going on? Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Bob Merce?
Just an announcement that reminding everybody that tomorrow on the 19th is the second meeting of the community practice part of the Community Design Center's efforts to design a new jail and come up with alternative models for the new jail. And the design considerations is the subject for tomorrow's meeting. The meeting is going to be 11:30 to 1:30 at I think the office building that you're in now, the state office building. There's no Zoom on that, unfortunately. It's in person only, but I would encourage everybody who tunes into these meetings to come and share their thoughts on the design of the new jail if you have time to do it, because it's really an important part, I think, of the design process. I hope that the Department of Public Safety will tell us specifically what what facilities in Indiana they visited and what those look like, so that we can all take a look at them and see whether they represent good models. I mean, I just have no, it's just kind of vague to say we went to Indiana and visited a bunch of facilities. I'd like to know what and what the purpose of that was. And finally, I just can't resist saying that, every time I hear these reports from the various facilities, all I can do is shake my head, and I just don't understand why we don't have a single facility in this state that even comes close to meeting the minimum standards of the American Correctional Association. We're far below in every single facility that we have. And we keep saying that these are the problems and nothing seems to get fixed. And I don't know, it's just total frustration when you go through these things and you hear things that are just should never, ever happen, like these 60 days, and then we take them out, we put them back in 60 more days. That kind of stuff is the stuff that you fire people for. It should never be tolerated. And I just don't see the department acting on any of your recommendations. And I just, I'm so also frustrated because I was the vice chair of the HCR 85 task force. As you know, that was 6 years ago. We said transition to a rehabilitative system. And we got a new name, but when I hear these reports, I say they haven't changed anything in the last 6 years. And that's the reality. So I don't know what the solution is. I just want to share those feelings with you, and hopefully in a meeting in the near future, we can talk about how we can do something to move the department off the dime. And I know they're working hard, they're doing some good things, but the system is really, really, really out of control. And it just needs urgent attention. So thank you very much.
Pat?
I know that Commissioner Town wanted to talk about expungement, and I just wanted to mention that 2 bills passed the legislature this year. One was HB 1595, and that was about cannabis expungement for people who were arrested but not convicted. And the other one is SB 2706, which is a task force establishing a clean slate task force, as many other states have done.
I guess so.
Mike Town?
Kat, thank you again. I called up Carrie. Carrie did a very persuasive job as she always does on the television, talking about this and the idea of a clean slate. And I also mentioned we're working on parole. I think that by law, there has to be some changes in some of the parole commissioners and the chair. So this is a very propitious time to address it. Because we tell people, as you know, I was on the parole board for 8 years. We tell people, keep your nose clean, do your programs, and we'll keep your minimums down. And then you can always ask for expungement. I just pulled up the Attorney General's.
Candace has something to say from the Attorney General's
Okay.
office, yeah.
Candace has something.
Yeah, this is not an agenda item, so if the board, I mean, the public can comment on it, but if the board is gonna say anything about something that's not on the agenda item, you have to vote to put it on the agenda.
You know, Candace, when first we were required to have the public comment at the beginning, we were told it can only be on agenda items. So we as a group added a second opportunity for the public to speak to us at the end. I did not know that that was also restricted to only agenda items.
No, it's not restricted to agenda items. The public can comment on other things, but the board can only discuss agenda items. So if there's something now that the board wants to discuss that is not on the agenda, it just needs to vote to put it on the agenda at this point.
Oh, okay, I see.
But Judge Town asked specifically about
At the beginning,
expungement.
yes, at the very beginning, Candace, he said he wanted to add to the agenda.
Yeah, but there was no vote. You have to take a vote,
I
put it
will,
on the agenda.
Judge Town, you make a motion to add expungement to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, continue.
You know, I love the First Amendment to the Constitution. So free speech. I just pulled up the AG's expungement frequently asked questions on the AG's, and we're part of the AG's office, as is Candace. And I think it's something we had to agendize later, discuss it, because it's very frustrating that we tell people that expungement's possible, cutting down the minimums, getting people out, but then there's very little due process on how we address it. It's a giant problem. And it was frustrating. At the end of every month, we'd look at expungement, and it took a really long time. And guess who has to sign off? Everybody but who laid the rail. So I think it's a fair issue. And I thank Candace for raising that procedural part.
Okay, and we will add it to our next agenda. Any other comments? Kalei, how do you have your hand raised?
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to like I came in kind of last. I call my come in kind of later when Ron was already talking, but I kind of know a little bit about what he would be saying. But I would like to stress plenty about you know, our guys in prison, especially those who not going to get out. You get people in prison today that they got life without. So they're not getting out. So there's nothing going on for them up there on the continent, and they're away from home, and it's like out of sight, out of mind. You know, just throw them up there, let them die up there on a continent, far away from their homeland, far away from their families. And I think it's just kind of crazy that they should be just forgotten. I think, and we got plenty of room. You know, we're talking about letting guys out. We have Act 117, which talks about Kulani being a pu'uhonua for people getting out and back into the community. So, you know, like I'm like, bring these guys home. Let them die home instead of up there, so many thousand miles away from their homeland and from their ohana. Bring them home. It's just kind of sad that they should be just forgotten. And I hear about them. You know, I know a lot of them, and they're just dying 1 year. Every year, somebody dying up there that's been in there forever. You know, so you know, we get people, Chico Santiago, Mike, Hugh, all kind, you know. And these are guys that can contribute to all these ideas you guys talking about. You know, I did time with these guys, and you know, there's a lot of great things that happen in prison, initiated by Pa'ahau. You know, walkathons, raising funds for charities outside in the community. You know, utilize these guys in there. Thank you. Mahalo.
Chico Santiago was up at at Kulani for quite a while before he was sent to the mainland. And I know that some legislators asked us about that because he was life without parole, but he was a wonderful person to work with, and he was a very good example for the other inmates. I mean, Chico, and we want to have those influences on the other people. Any other comments from the community? Well, thank you very much for attending. And Ron, I want you to know that I heard you loud and clear in what you were saying. And we need to have some more direction among ourselves to get things done. We have a huge mandate, and I believe we do have a reluctant participation by the department, and I'm hoping that as the department changes, that relationship will be more positive in the future.
I got one more thing.
Okay, Mike?
I can't read, I'm not very good with these eyes. Sir, what's your name? Is it Kalei?
Kalehau.
Kalehau. You know, the one thing that creeps into my heart every time I do these meetings is that every single person deserves a gentle, compassionate death. I don't care who they are. Name your worst enemy. But these guys and gals deserve definitely to be treated kindly. And Bob Mercer's worked so hard with our older Pa'ahau. And so stay on that. And I don't understand why they can't be brought home. We brought someone home who'd been, Bob, right? We brought someone home, he'd been gone 42 years. When he finally got paroled or released early, guess what? He met 250 family members. Think about that. So I'm still shaking my head too, brother. So I don't know what the solution is.
Okay. Thank you. At this point, I take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.